Hello and welcome to our feature focus with IntelliBoard today. We are thrilled that you are here. We'll give folks just a couple more minutes to join us and then we will get started. Feel free to drop any questions into the chat. We have that open. We also have Q&A open that we will do our best either to weave those into the webinar or we will follow up with you direct after the webinar. But this is for you all. Thrilled that you're here with us today. We'll go ahead and get started. So welcome to IntelliBoard's Feature Focus. I am Amy Price. I get to work with our product and solution teams here at IntelliBoard and thrilled to see clients and new faces as well in the attendee list. Thrilled that you are here. We are focusing today on IntelliBoard your way, your IntelliBoard with personalization and security. So we will go ahead and get started. Next slide. Perfect. So at the end of today's sessions, we will understand the options for personalization. We will understand the options for enhanced security practice and some best practices and examples for both. This is really nuts and bolts today. This is for our primary account holders, but also some of the flexibility that the product has for you all. So again, drop your questions into the Q&A box or the chat and we'll do our best to answer those. We'll go on to the next slide. Perfect. So if you are new here, let's just briefly talk about what IntelliBoard is and does. We center your LMS data and we work with it for data collection to actionable insights. There's so much data on the back end of the LMS, and we know that it's valuable to have that in-term data to really be more proactive with our students and our educational learning. And that's our whole goal, to summarize, visualize, and compare that critical data in term to make an impact before it's too late. We also have the ability to integrate SIS data, again, to identify special populations of students or identify that a course is of a particular program or a mini-mester or an online program, again, to surface the critical data to make the most sense of it in terms. So we also have a default library by persona, recognizing that not everybody at your institution needs the same data. An academic advisor may need different data than an academic leader of a dean, provost, chair. An instructor is being asked to do different things than financial aid is doing, but we collectively have the opportunity to support and inform our students' learning progression as we go through. All of this follows role-based permissions, and we can also automate notifications, which will be important as part of this conversation. So we'll go on to the next slide. Perfect. So we do this for different personas on campus, like we said, system admins through academic advisors, financial aid. You're noticing from this list of folks that we support that there are people who live inside the LMS, a system admin, a learner, an instructor, but there's also people who are end users who don't often have access to the LMS, athletic coaches, academic advisors, potentially financial aid, maybe even instructional designers, but getting the LMS data into these hands is important and valuable and able to do so through IntelliBoard. With that comes a responsibility, right? We need to make sure that the student data is protected. We have a responsibility to make sure that we are living in the ecosystems that your institutions have already set up. And we have a responsibility of placemaking and personalizing this data so it makes sense to each of these people as well. And that's what we'll focus on today. We'll go on to the next slide. So this is a slide that you will recognize if you are an IntelliBoard client from our implementations. These are the language that we typically talk about of who works with IntelliBoard. We have our executive sponsors who are, supporting the contract and secures the funding and champions with internal stakeholders for those different adoptions. We have IntelliBoard champions, LMS administrators, and then what we call our end users. So we're today for this conversation, we're going to talk about our primary account holder, that top account holder, which is typically an IntelliBoard champion, can be an LMS administrator, right? And these three to the left, executive sponsor, IntelliBoard champions, and LMS SIS administrators, are what we call part of the champion team. These are the doers. These are the makers. You're working with us closely. We love you. We are the IntelliBoard champions. We get to touch the settings. We get to set it up together. So when we say part of the champion team or the primary account holder, we're talking about the doers. And then we have the end users, right? These are the people who are taking action on learning data. They're the ones we're setting this up for. They're the ones that are bringing IntelliBoard data into their daily practices and informing their daily workspaces with that informed and critical data. They're the ones that is bringing IntelliBoard data to meetings, to talk with students, etc. So our champions, doers, end users who are taking action on that learning data. And that will just help us with placemaking through the rest of the webinar. We'll go on to the next slide. So let's start talking about personalization options for the primary account holder. Make it mine. I see several folks who are in the chat. So if you are a client and you've made it mine, feel free to drop into the chat of why that's important, right? I like to think about our water bottles and our water bottles with our own individual stickers on it, right? It makes it mine. It makes it more comfortable. It makes it less daunting. It makes it easier for me to adopt this technology. The tech world is around us, right? We use technology on every single day. However, our comfort levels with technology vary from user to user. We got to be in Louisiana. I see some of my Louisiana friends in the chat, and we got to be on several campuses this last fall, and the amount of people walking around having conversations with pen and paper in person, right? It was lovely. And also a reminder that the technology comfort between an IntelliBoard champion and an IntelliBoard end user, that end user may not have all of the tools or understanding or placemaking of the platform. They're just expected to use it. So how can we, as those champions, think about how we can personalize to make that data access more comfortable? So we have the opportunity to align time zones, palettes, signatures, report images, descriptions, tags, and images, and we're going to jump into all of those. We'll go on to the next slide. Perfect. So we have here the primary account holder, and we'll click it one more time to bring in the image. The primary account holder, the tip top account holder, has access to organization settings. You are the only person that has access to the organizational settings. And this can be found in that primary account holder, the top avatar. Go down to manage connections and then go into your organization settings. These can be set to a language, English or Spanish, your time zone, time format, and date format, recognizing those preferences change globally. The number of rows per page, so that's the table of number of rows that are automatically defaulted. And then also the two-factor authentication options are here for the whole account, but the big things that we want to pull attention to are the visualizations of the color palette and the organizational email signature. So the color palette, this is going to inform all those visualizations. You can align it to your colors and your branding to make that align with the systems that you use. Also, the organization email signature is going to be very important for any notification that is sent out to your end users. So this may be a policy, this may be a reply to this email, this may be your logo, your signature, anything that you want to attach to every single notification that goes out, dependent on who sends it, can be placed into your organizational email signature. We'll go on to the next slide. For our end users, we are giving them the ability to override and further personalize some of their account settings. They only change their settings. You set the defaults trickle down to the end users can go in and change their language, time zone, and time format, and add their own personal signature. So again, that's going to be for our end users. They're going to have the ability to set that up through their profile and editing their profile. Their personal signature will sit on top of your organizational signature. So it's important that we do both, so that we know that when those notifications go out with that critical data, you have your personal signature of the account who's it's coming from, but then also your organizational signature will be underneath that. We'll go on to the next slide. Also, part of the organizational, the champion team has access to the organizational roles. And the organizational roles are important because while there's only one primary tip-top account holder, you can create additional IntelliBoard champions who have more access, who can do more building, who can do more managing through organizational roles. And some of these organizational roles will depend on who gets what and who gets to do what in the next personalization conversations. So know that in your organizational role, you can create those who have the ability to manage connections, manage the other IntelliBoard org roles and IB users. You will have the ability to control the builder permissions, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. So know that you can create additional champions within your team through the organizational roles, and dependent on what permissions you get in that organizational role gives you the ability to further personalize and work on security options. Next slide. Perfect. So another part of the personalization that you have as part of IntelliBoard is the simple builder option. This is an organizational role setting. And you can see in this screenshot, if you're familiar with the builder, it typically has 3 tabs. One with the data that you can pull in, the layout. It has filters that you're able to create those filters, and then it has a format tab. For the simple builder, you would empower people to only have formatting opportunities. You can't change the data. You can't change the filters. I'm going to give you that base. I have hold on to a little bit of control with that, but I'm going to allow you to format to your heart's content. And that allows you to rename header columns. It allows you to change the sizes of the font. It allows you to change what needs to be bolded, what the background colors need to be, all of the conditional formatting, all of that is available purely in the format tab. So you want to give someone and empower someone to work on making that language match your institution so it's more comfortable. Maybe you call it the student SIS number, the G number, and that's culturally what your institution will know. You can go ahead and make that change. Make that minor change to create some more comfort, some more disconnect. You can see myself in this data columns. You can label it how you want to label it for the benefit of your end users. And we'll go on to the next slide. So also in the simple builder options, and I think that this is where we really need to spend some time, because there's an opportunity with our naming and our descriptions and our tagging to really help place make the data, right? So we have names for our default reports, but you can edit any of these. You can edit these to the name of a report of what you're supposed to do with this data, right? You can name it to be your acronyms that you and your institution are used to. Maybe it's called CP, or maybe it's called dual enrollment. Everybody's names are different at our institution, and you can name the reports and the dashboards intentionally to create that comfort. The description is our description. Each of those, again, come with defaults, but we encourage you to review those, edit those, write the expectations and policy. This is a report to track, and the expectation at our institution is to do X, Y, and Z with it on this daily basis. We talk about SMART goals, right? We all know that acronym of SMART goals of through the years, and make it actionable, make it timely, give it some parameters, create and write down the expectation of the use of the data for your end users. I also think a lot about how we talk about supporting students with the hidden curriculum of higher education. And there is a hidden curriculum. They don't understand, we don't know what we don't know, right? The goal of the name and the description is tell me what I don't know and tell me how to use this and your expectation of using this to support the adoption and understanding of your end users. And the tags are important for, we default our tags to be the different personas to make suggestions. But again, if you wanted to create additional tags in the platform for, again, specific programs, specific expectations, you can create your own tags, and those help with searching. And then the preview, which is down here in the bottom, you can see those red, green, and yellow bars. It's just a thumbnail. So you can upload your own thumbnail. We see clients doing this in a beautiful way with your branding and images and the name of the report, but make it your own. It doesn't need to be just a picture of the thumbnail. It can be anything that follows your branding guidelines and organization of reports in your dashboard as well. We'll go on to the next slide. Perfect. So I see some of my New Mexico friends in the chat. New Mexico State University has done an amazing job with dashboard options, as well as some security settings that you'll see in a second. But the dashboard options are part of the branding. You can do dashboard options and dashboard creators with the full builder. And this is where you really get to start putting in your branding, your descriptions, your reasoning and rationale right on top of the data set. So this is just a screenshot of our friends at New Mexico with the data removed, but they've done an amazing job of saying, this is what this is ours. We are utilizing it to identify academically at-risk students. This is the parameter of what is identifying them at risk, and this is the reasoning. This is the hidden curriculum, because we know that early intervention is important. We know that a holistic approach is important. We know that individual tailored support is important, and we're all working to retention and graduation goals. Outlining that for the team to best support the data, not only having data access, but also identifying the data practice and the rationale and care is what you are able to do in these dashboards. You can also put in helpful pointers of like, click reminder, click that filter, reminder, set up these quick send notifications, schedule this to yourself. So all of that helper text for understanding the expectations of how to navigate the report, as well as what it's used for, can be built into your own dashboards. We'll go on to the next slide. So here's an intermission before we jump into our security options. Please join us for 2 amazing webinars next week, where you'll hear from several clients and best practices. So on Monday, Southern is joining us for an HBCU playbook for compliance and retention. You'll hear their user stories of how they built a culture of data and compliance from start to finish at Southern, and that's Monday. And on Thursday, we are hearing from several of the 58 North Carolina community colleges with different topics: dual enrollment to financial aid, to supporting deans, to supporting at-risk students. These are webinars that you will not want to miss, and everybody is welcome to register for them at IntelliBoard.net/events. If you'll go on to the next slide. Perfect. So we are transitioning into our security and privacy sessions. Obviously, this is student data, this is personal data, this is educational data. There is nothing more important to us as a data company than the security and compliance of that data. We have launched trust.intelliboard.net, which is our trust hub for all of our documentation from security. We FedRAMP, TextRAMP, all of that documentation is there. Our privacy policies are there. All of the data integrity and what we're doing to create redundancies and disaster recovery plans to make sure that everything stays online and as expected is there and available to you at trust.intelliboard.net. This is also linked from within the platform from the question mark in the upper right-hand corner of your IntelliBoard accounts that anybody can access as needed. We want to be as transparent as possible about how committed we are to your data and storing your data. Also, we've been receiving more questions about accessibility and our compliance to ensure that we're ADA compliant, and all of that lives there as well. So trust.intelliboard.net, which is available to you from your general browser and within the platform, will kick us off from our security options. We'll click on to the next slide. Perfect. So from security options, the primary account holder, again, top, has access to these SSO settings, as well as other security sessions. Also, if you are able to access the connection, because you have that through your organization role, you'll be able to set the LTI, and we'll talk through each of these as we go through. So we'll go on to the next slide. So the primary account holder is the person who sets up two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication is enabled by default, and it sets to email. So that is enabled by default. That is under the organizational settings that you saw earlier. The two-factor authentication options include the authenticator, which is what we suggest, a text message or an email. To be able to use text message, that phone number needs to be verified. We again recommend the authenticator. You can set that up and choose that once we are there. An end user cannot turn off two-factor authentication once it is set. They need to use one of the options provided. End users can update their email, their phone number, based off of their security sessions, but they cannot change two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication is automatically disabled after you set up an SSO from another tool, but it is enabled by default when you first get your IntelliBoard account. We'll go on to the next slide. Also, for the primary account holder, we have a single sign-on options, and there's so many different SSO service providers, and they can look and be named a lot of different things, but typically on the back end, they're using similar protocols. So we support protocols OpenID Connect and SAML 2.0. If you are wanting to set up SSO, I know that several of you already have, but you can email helpdesk@intelliboard.net, and you can include your service provider and protocol if known. That just helps us be able to help you set that up, recognizing that there's so many different options. Again, shout out to the New Mexico team for setting this up already. You can see at the bottom, you have your own unique URL once you've set up SSO, and you have a button to click and log in automatically with your SSO. You also have the opportunity to hide the email and password input. So if you just want to have the button for logging in with SSO, know that there's an option for that as well. Again, our support team is able to help you with that setup. We'll go on to the next slide. Your champion team, for whomever has the ability to manage the connection, also can set up the LTI for inside your LMS. So if you want just your end users to hit the LTI inside Canvas, inside Moodle, Blackboard, Brightspace, where they're already living, that makes it make sense, right? Don't make me go to another place. Let me live inside an LTI. Let me single sign on from the LTI into IntelliBoard. Anybody who has the ability to manage the connection to the LMS also will be able to manage the LTI setup from your LMS and IntelliBoard. And again, that'll be under the avatar, manage connections, edit the connections, and the advanced settings. Go on to the next slide. Thank you so much for being with us today. We'll leave this screen up for a little bit. The first QR code is our YouTube channel with additional how-to videos. The second one is the documentation. Also, all of the documentation is linked inside your account in that top right-hand corner with the question mark. And as always, email helpdesk@intelliboard.net or your account manager for additional information. And again, visit that Trust Hub as well. And our compliance privacy standards comply with North America and global. It's all linked there. Any other questions that we have today? Feel free to email me direct at amy.intelliboard.net. Don't hesitate to join us for the 2 webinars next week. And we wish you all well in November. It's closing in on the end of term, and we wish you all the best as you close out this term and plan for your spring. Thank you for being part of our valued IntelliBoard community, and we look forward to supporting you.